Thank you all for joining me this morning for our step-by-step training on DocuSign. We're going to go through everything from starting within opportunities in Command, going to DocuSign, creating documents, setting them for signature, and then uploading for compliance. So I'm going to jump right in. I've already gone ahead and created an opportunity just for time. So I'm going to navigate to that opportunity in Command. So I'm going to go over to the opportunity icon on the left-hand side, which is the two-hand shaking. I'm going to click on that. And then for me personally, I like to, when I'm going to an opportunity, I just like to click on all opportunities up here. And then it just shows me a list of the opportunities that I have going on. So I'm going to come down to 1234 Main Street that I created earlier this morning. So you can see here I filled in all the information, the opportunity name. I always recommend that you put the property address in the opportunity name. So for me, this is a listing, so it's 1234 Main Street. If you're working with a buyer, obviously you may not know what that property address will be till you go under contract, but as soon as you do go under contract, be sure to update the opportunity name. Becca was telling us the other day on team meeting that it makes it really difficult for the MCA office to connect different documents and earnest money checks to opportunities if the address is not in the opportunity name. All right, so now I'm going to go to the Documents tab within the opportunity. And you can see here I have blank documents. I haven't uploaded anything. And then in the top right-hand corner, it says Start a Transaction. Now I want to pause here for just a second because when using DocuSign and Command, this Start a Transaction button is very important. One of the main benefits of using DocuSign is that it links automatically to Command, so you can upload documents into Command directly from DocuSign. So you don't have to download them to your computer and then upload them. However, that functionality is only linked if you click on the Start a Transaction button. Because you do have the capability of going directly to DocuSign.com and start playing around and making rooms there. But if you go to DocuSign.com and start a room there, you will not be able to link that room to the opportunity. So just make sure that before you ever go to DocuSign, make sure you click on Start a Transaction. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction. Oh, one last thing I want to point out. For anyone that is using .loop, if you've already started a transaction or an opportunity within Command and connected it to .loop, you cannot connect to DocuSign halfway through the transaction. You have to finish out that opportunity connected to .loop. That doesn't mean you can't start making documents in DocuSign, but you'll have to manually upload them. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm going to get started and click on Start a Transaction. And this will open up DocuSign in a new tab. If you have pop-up blockers on, it may prevent the browser from opening up this new tab. Just double check to make sure that you're not getting a little message here. I think it would be like a little red box right here near your URL bar, just to make sure that it loads properly.
Hey, Nick, I was watching you closely, and maybe it's underneath your names. Where did you click Start a Transaction? I didn't see it.
It was probably underneath the video that you have.
Is it to the right of the screen?
Yeah, it's on the right-hand side. So if you just minimize the video screens on your computer, right here, now it says Go to.
It was underneath your picture.
Yeah. Now it says Go to Transaction because I've clicked Start a Transaction, but the button is right here, and it's like a big bluish gray button that says Start a Transaction.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to go back to the DocuSign tab. I'm going to log in. It's going to have me log in here. And now it's going to drop me right into the Documents tab of this room. So just to clarify, in .loop, we had loops, and in DocuSign, we have rooms. So as you hear me say rooms, just know that I'm referring to DocuSign and an individual contract or client. So I've started the transaction in Command. It now brought me into the room that it has created in DocuSign. You'll see here, the name of this room is 1234 Main Street Tony Stark listing, which is the exact name from my opportunity. So that is one way that they are linked by name. And then below here is an ID number. And I want to point that out because DocuSign does have the capability for you to email documents directly into your room. That's kind of a DocuSign 2.0. But I do just want to point out that you would use this ID number here for that. And if you ever have any questions about that, let me know and we can set up some time to review. So since this is the first time I've logged into DocuSign, well, for today's training, before I do anything in DocuSign and before you do anything in DocuSign, you need to confirm your NRDS ID number. That is the number that you have as a member of the National Association of Realtors, and that's going to confirm with DocuSign that you have access to use the Georgia Association of Realtors forms. If you do not confirm your NRDS ID, you will not have access to any of the GAR forms. So there are two ways that you can confirm your NRDS ID, and I will show you both of them. Kind of depending on which way you end up there, it doesn't matter. So the first is if you come into DocuSign your first time, you're now in your new room, you're in the Documents tab. I can confirm my NRDS ID right here within the Documents tab. I come up here to the Add button in the top right-hand corner, click Add, and then select DocuSign Forms. And the way that you'll know that you haven't confirmed your NRDS ID is because this window will pop up and will have these two icons here. And you'll want to select the National Association of Realtors logo. So click on the R. And now this window asks for our NRDS ID and our association. Now I've only met 2 agents that actually know their NRDS ID. I'm not one of them. So what you're probably going to want to do is click on this link here that says find your NRDS ID. So click on that and it'll open up a new tab and we can find that number because it's not something we use regularly. And you can use your last name, email address, or real estate license to find your ID number. So I'm going to use my last name and my license number just because I can't remember which email I used when I signed up for the Realtor Association. So I'm just going to use that, click Submit. And now it is going to populate my NRDS ID. So I'm going to highlight this number here, right mouse click, copy. I'm just going to close out that tab because I don't need it anymore. Come back into DocuSign and I'm going to paste in that NRDS ID right there in that field. And now I'm going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors for my association. It's all the way at the bottom. It's like 10 or 12 from the bottom. So just scroll all the way to the bottom and then you'll scroll up and you'll see here, Georgia Association of Realtors. Select that. Now you're going to select Validate. That's going to say you're validating your 2 association memberships. Now, if it's your very, very, very first time in DocuSign, it'll also have another pop-up here for you from the Georgia Association of Realtors asking you to accept the terms and conditions, and you would click Accept there. And then once you have accepted that, this window will pop up where it says Add DocuSign Forms or select Library. So now your NRDS ID number is confirmed. But before we start doing anything with actual documents, I do want to show you the other way that you can confirm your NRDS ID. So up in the top right-hand corner, you'll either have a photo of yourself if you've added one, or your initials. So click on those, and then select Preferences. And then on the left-hand side, on the menu here, we'll want to select Integrations. And if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see here's NRDS ID information. Now, because I just confirmed that a moment ago, it's filled in here, but if you had it, you could fill in your number here, and to the right, where it currently says clear for me, it would say find your NRDS ID, and it would take you to that same window where you could search your last name, email address, and license number to get your ID number, your NRDS ID number. So you'd fill that in here, and then you'd be good to go. Any questions on confirming your NRDS ID? I just want to make sure that everyone is fully aware that this is the first thing you have to do the very first time that you start using DocuSign, because without it, you won't have access to any of the GAR forms. All right. So now that we're good with our NRDS ID, I'm going to go back to the room that I just created. So I'm going to click on Dashboard. And then right here, recently viewed rooms, 1234 Main Street. So I'm back in the Documents tab because I just kind of want to pick up where we originally left off. Because once you've confirmed your NRDS ID number, and every time you click Start a Transaction, DocuSign will put you here in the Documents tab. Your first instinct is going to be, oh, I'm in the Documents tab. Let's start adding documents. Don't. The first thing you need to do is go to the Details tab right here. And the Details tab is where you're going to fill in all of the information about the property and about your clients. Because the information that's on the Details tab is what will auto-populate your GAR forms. Now, in .loop, you were able to search the FMLS number, and .loop would pull in all of the information from MLS. DocuSign does not have that same functionality, which is a little frustrating because it was a nice little time saver, but you're able to put in all of that information here, and then it will automatically pull in to all the documents. So the page is kind of set up in two different sections. The left side, I guess like the left 3/4 of the page is really going to be all about the piece of property that we are about to go under contract on, and all the information about the listing, offers, all that. Then on the right-hand side, this quarter column is going to be all the information about the clients and ourselves as the agents. So because I set up a listing transaction, as an example today, DocuSign has pulled in the contact information for my clients directly out of Command, which is another benefit. I do recommend that you always double check just to make sure that all the information is correct. Another thing I want to point out here is that if, let's say, you add a client in and then immediately create an opportunity, and then immediately after that create a DocuSign room, it probably won't pull in the information just because Command hasn't had enough time to sync all of the contact information that you just added. So just be mindful that 9 times out of 10, it will pull over the correct contact information, but we always want to double check it. So you'll see here at the top, we have seller 1, seller 2, listing agent 1, listing agent 2, and then you scroll down, you have buyer 1 and buyer 2, and then buyer agent 1. Now, the reason I want to show you, you have to keep scrolling down because it seems like you're going pretty far down the page. So just know that you have to keep scrolling. Now, for today's example, I'm going to be the listing agent. So I have my clients are going to be seller 1 and seller 2. I can add in information about the buyer's agent if I want to, but I want to tell you now, and I'll repeat this again later, I do not recommend that you ever send documents for signature to co-op agents. So while it may make sense, like, oh, I could just send this document to the co-op agent to sign, don't, because the way that DocuSign works is that until everyone that's been registered to sign the document signs it, it's not considered complete, and then you'd end up being left with a document in limbo without anyone's signatures on it. So now that we've kind of walked through the Details tab and the layout of it, let's start updating the information. So in the top, I'm going to click Edit. So we'll start with the left-hand side. So you see we have the name of our room. If you wanted to change the name of the room, you could. You do that here. Then I'm just going to start filling out the information. I just always recommend to start at the top and work your way down. And fill out as much of the information that you know as possible. So local currency, we'll do US dollars, MLS ID, I'm just going to make this up. Origin of lead, I don't really need to know that. All right, so property address, so this is going to be 1234 Main Street. This will be Atlanta. We'll do Fulton County. We'll select Georgia. postal code 30342. Property type, we'll select residential detached. Year built, let's do 2001. Special circumstances, there are none, so we'll leave that blank. Listing details, so we will list the house today on the 21st. Listing expiration date, we'll just do, let's do October 21st, so we'll give it 2 months. Listing amount, we're going to do 425. Current listing amount, 425. Current local, 425, 425.
Nick,
Yes.
as far as this is concerned, so you know you're getting a. Are you setting up? You're not setting up the listing here, are you? What are you actually producing here? What do you add?
So what I'm doing now is I'm updating the details tab in DocuSign. So that way when I go to create the exclusive seller listing agreement and the seller's property disclosure, all of this information will then pull into those documents. So it makes it really easy to update and then send for signature.
So if we're representing the buyer, then we're just getting all this information from the FMLS listing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so filled in the listing details. Offer details, well, this is just about to go live, so I don't have any offer details yet. No highest bid confirmation, closing date. All right, perfect. So I'm good to go here. I'm going to leave all the rest of the information blank because I don't know it now. Now I want to go double check my client's information and make sure that all of their contact information is correct. So seller one, we have Tony Stark, his cell phone and email address that were pulled directly out of Command. Now, when you're filling in your the contact information for your clients, at the bare minimum, you need to have their name and their email address, because the email address is what the system will use to email them the documents for signature. So you don't need to worry about filling in their home address if you don't want to. So scrolling down, we have seller two. So we have Pepper Potts here and her email address. And I don't have any other information. And then scrolling down, we have listing agent. We have myself. So it pulled in my information out of Command. So I'll just fill in my cell phone number here, my email, company. Now it's going to default to say Keller Williams Realty, either First Atlanta or Atlanta Perimeter. I recommend just delete Realty out of your name because it'll help save space for some of the fields on the document. And for our Atlanta Perimeter friends, you can always change it to KW Atlanta Perimeter, and that should fit okay. And Lynn said that is an okay naming convention to use in your documents. So double check the address. We'll add in the city here. So Atlanta, country, United States, state, Georgia, postal code 30342. Scrolling down, listing agent two. So if you had a co-lister, you would put his or her information here. Now, because I am representing the seller, I could put in the buyer's information here if I wanted to, since I am representing the seller, I don't recommend doing it. I would just kind of leave it blank. It's fine. But if you wanted to scroll down, you could come put the buyer's agent information here, or if you are the buyer's agent, fill in all of your information here. Scrolling back up, I just want to do one last double check before I hit save. So we have Tony, a seller one, email, phone number, perfect. Pepper, email, perfect. Now, before we jump into documents, when you are setting up your client's information here on the details tab, you want to make sure which one, if you have multiple clients, which client wants to be designated as seller one. Seller one, the person that you put in this field here, is going to be the one that has access to fill in the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and lead-based paint disclosure. All of those fields are mapped to seller one. So make sure you talk with your clients and say, if you want to fill in these documents electronically, which one of you wants to be responsible for it? So you'll put in the information here, so that way the system maps everything correctly. So now I'm good to go. I'm going to click save. So my room has been updated. So now
Where
we
did
can,
you associate them with seller one, seller two?
excuse me?
Where did you associate them as seller one, seller two? Was that in the right under
Yeah,
the edit?
yeah, in the right-hand column here, you can see we have seller one.
I saw that.
Yeah, and
What
then,
happens if I had a situation where the it went from seller one, it was seller one and seller two. The wife stepped out of it. Now the wife is back. Can you just simply add a second seller easily?
yeah, you can just come back to edit,
Okay.
add the second seller. Now, I don't know if you're under contract, you may need an amendment here or there to, make that change. But yeah, you just
Well, it
add.
was actually in a buying situation, but I was just curious. I figured it was the same.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So now we're going to start adding documents. So to do that, click on the Documents tab. Now you'll see here we have our Room Docs folder, and that's the only folder that we have here. Everything in DocuSign, when it's either a signed document, a completed signed document, or you upload a document, it's all going to default into the Room Docs folder. But I know that every agent has their own system and way that they like to organize their documents. Loop, we had very specific instructions on how to set up those folders for compliance review. Well, Lynn and Alita are never going to look at your DocuSign room, so you can set it up any which way that you want. It can be as organized as you want or as messy as you want. But if you want to organize it in different folders, you can do that. So before we start adding documents, I want to create a folder for my listing agreements. So I'll click on Actions in the top right-hand corner and then click Add Folder. And I'm just going to name this Listing Agreement and then click Create. So now I have my listing agreement folder. So now I want to go through and I want to start adding documents to the room. So I'll click on the Add button in the top right-hand corner, select DocuSign Forms. Now sometimes this window takes a minute to load. As long as you have the gray screen, give it a minute or two, I promise it will load. Sometimes it's faster than others. So for today, we're going to select documents from the DocuSign library. So select DocuSign library, and then we'll select the library, and we'll select Georgia Association of Realtors. If you do not see GAR here, that means you likely have not confirmed your NRDS number, or you haven't confirmed it correctly. So you will select GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors. So now we're going to start searching for the documents. We have all of the GAR forms listed right here, and we have our forms finder right here. So I'm going to start looking for the exclusive seller listing agreement. Perfect. So we have it right here, F101. Now, I say that, I point out F101 because as you start to create more rooms in DocuSigns, I would recommend that you familiarize yourself with the actual form number. So that way, it makes it a lot easier to find the exact form that you want, because you can see here, I have 3 exclusive seller listing agreements. I have caught myself a handful of times adding the incorrect form to my room. So just want to make sure you kind of help you prevent doing that same mistake. So we have our exclusive seller listing agreement. Now I want to add the seller's property disclosure. So come here and make sure I find the right one. Condo, landlot, new construction, so F301. Now we also want to add the community association disclosure, fees, disclosure, and related issues. And you see every time I select a document, this number down here updates. So now I know I have 3 forms selected. And I know today I am working on a listing example, but I do want to show how we would update a purchase and sale agreement, since I think most everyone will be using a purchase and sale doc at one point or the other. So I'm going to look up F201, and here's my purchase and sale. So I'll select that. I now have 4 forms selected, and I will click Add. It will add them to my room. It'll reload. And now you can see it put all of those documents into my Room Docs folders, because everything defaults into the Room Doc folders. Now what I want to do is I want to move all of the documents for my listing agreement into my listing agreement folder. there are two ways that you can move documents. The first way is by rolling your mouse over the document icon, and then you'll see you have this button that appears in the top left-hand corner. Click on the radio button to select it, and when you do that, a toolbar will appear up here at the top of the page. And what we're going to want to do is select the Move button. So click on Move, and we'll select a destination, a folder in current room, and then we'll select the listing agreement folder, and then click Move. The page will reload, and it has now moved that community association disclosure into the listing agreement folder. Now there's another way, it's a little bit more simple. If you roll your mouse over a document, click on it, and just drag it up. It's that simple. So I'm gonna move the seller's property disclosure. So now I have the 3 documents that I need for my seller, for my listing agreement, and then I have my purchase and sale agreement. Now, for my agents that are, for the agents that are at Atlanta Perimeter, you would add your affiliated marketing disclosures and wire fraud prevention documents here at this part of the process. From clicking Add, DocuSign Forms, and Stacy has actually set up groups for you, so you could select DocuSign Forms groups, and it would be within those groups there. For the first Atlanta agents, do not worry, because our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention documents will be added in the envelope in just a moment. So don't worry that we don't have it yet. So now I want to go through and fill out the information for these forms. So I'll get started with the exclusive seller listing agreement. So just start filling it in, click on it to open it. Just give it a second to load. And now with everything, I always recommend just start at the top and we'll work our way down. So you can see here, it's filled in this information for the property address based on what I added in the details tab. Now it doesn't have everything, so I'll need to go through and fill in the rest of the information. So like the tax ID number, so we'll just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you know. Legal description, you can do attach as exhibit, deed book and page, so I'll just do attach as exhibit. Scroll down, listing period. So just to fill in all of the information the same way that we would in .loop. So listing period, so I'll do a date of 8/21/2020, and I can tab to the next field and I'll do 10/21/2020 because I was giving myself 2 months for this listing. The broker's duties list price, $425, that was auto-populated from the details tab. Negotiation, the seller does have the right or does authorize broker to assist in negotiations. Broker agrees to file the listing with the following multiple listing services. I'm just going to write FMLS, GAMLS, and KWLS. One thing I want to point out, so I'm just using abbreviations here. Today's training is on how to use DocuSign. It's not what the correct information is to fill in on any of these forms. Please be sure to refer to Lynn and Alita on all the information that actually goes in the form, and I know that they will walk through that with you, and there's a handful of trainings throughout the year that really goes in depth on what each one of the fields is for a purchase and sale agreement. All right, so going down to commission, we'll select this. I'm going to do, we negotiated 6%, and we agreed to pay the co-op broker 3%. Protected period, 90 days. We are an independent contractor. Agency and brokerage, we do not do dual agency and sub-agency. So you can see it's really easy to go through and just click and fill in the information that we want. Scroll down, there are no special circumstances. Just keep scrolling and scrolling. All right, so now we have the brochures. So we can add, select any of the brochures that we want to add. All of these brochures are included in the DocuSign forms, so you can add them here. So mold, radon, protect yourself when selling a house. Exhibits, legal descriptions, that'll be Exhibit A. And if you
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, what do you mean they're included? We don't have to upload them or anything? They're just, if we check them, they're automatically there?
No, so no, if you check them here, you need to make sure that you add them into the room the same way that we added in the
Okay, no, that's why I just wanted to make sure if you didn't say that there, I thought you maybe said that there was a little magic button there. When we
Oh, no,
click
I wish.
into the room, it just happens. Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then special circumstances. So if you include any special circumstances, you can type, sorry, special stipulations. You can type those special steps here and put in any that you want. So scrolling down, we'll see it auto-populates our clients' names and email addresses here. And then scrolling down, we get to our information. Now, one thing that has been pointed out by a lot of agents is that all of this information that's being requested here, MLS office code and license number, is going to be the same for every single document. So we are working, Keller Williams Realty International and our regional technology director are working with DocuSign to figure out how we can get these fields to auto-populate and all the information to stay the same. But for the time being, we do have to manually fill them in. So I'll just fill in my license phone number, my fax number, which I just put as the office number, office fax number, my real estate license number, my membership for the Atlanta, our MLS office code, KWFA 01, brokerage license number H33313, and then fax number 531-5708. Hold on one second. I'm getting a call for like the 7th time, so let me take this really fast. I apologize. All right, sorry about that. I have an inspection this morning, and the agent was calling me about like 8 times, so my apologies. All right, so I just finished filling in all of my information here. So we are good to go. So once you finish filling in all the info, just click Save and Close. And now it'll save everything. Perfect. So now we can start updating our seller's property disclosure. So I will open this document, seller's property disclosure. Give it a second to load. Perfect. So you can see here, it's already added in the property address. We don't have an offer date, so we don't need to fill that in. And this isn't an exhibit to a contract yet, so we don't need to fill in that either. So we'll scroll down and you'll see here, we have all these fields asking for information, but there's no fields for us to fill in the information. That is done on purpose. Us as the listing agents are not to fill in any of the information for the disclosures. The disclosures are to be filled in solely by the seller. So while we're in the Documents tab of DocuSign, there's no fields here. I will show you in a few minutes when we go to the envelope and we prepare to send for signature that all of these fields will be mapped to seller 1, so he or she can fill that in when they receive the documents. So I just want to give everything a double check just to make sure there aren't any fields that we do need to fill in. Scroll down. All right, you can see it adds in our clients' names, so we're good to go there. And then just click Save and Close. And now I'm going to open up the Community Association disclosure. And this is going to be the exact same as the seller's property disclosure. We don't have access to update any of the information on this document. So again, we don't need to fill in the exhibit letter or the offer date. And then, see all these buttons in places. We Can't fill in any of this information, which is good because you don't want to be held responsible if any of the information is incorrect, and then you end up costing your clients money at closing. So we'll just click Save and Close. So that's how quick it is to put together a listing agreement. While we're here in the Documents tab, let's walk through the purchase and sale agreement, because this document is a little bit more cumbersome, and I want to make sure that you're all really comfortable with using this, because this is kind of at the heart of our business. So select the purchase and sale agreement. All right. So with everything, I always recommend that you start at the top and just work your way down. So offer date. So this is we're gonna fill in this purchase and sale agreement as if we're submitting an offer on this property. I know it's gonna be a little wonky, but just it's really just about how to fill in the fields. So offer date, we'll do 8/21/2020. Scrolling down, it's filled in our address, the city, the county, zip, the MLS number. We'll need to add in the tax ID. And then legal description, I'm just going to select that it's attached as an exhibit. All right, purchase price. So we'll fill in $425. Now you'll notice I put a comma in there. When you save this document, DocuSign removes commas out of the purchase price. I don't know why it does. So just be mindful. So if you open this back up and you're like, wait, there's no comma there, that's why it gets automatically deleted. Closing costs, we want to ask for $5,000 in closing costs. Now, what's really interesting is that the closing costs field will accept commas, so it'll stay there. So date of possession, let's do 9/21/2020, and we'll do possession at closing. Holder of earnest money, we'll do KWFA. Closing attorney, Campbell and Brannon. Earnest money, we'll do $42.50 within 3 days of binding. So you see, you just kind of go through the information through each field and just fill it in. It's really simple. And one thing that I really like about DocuSign versus .loop is that all these little fields here, you can't delete them by accident. I can't tell you how many times when I was putting together a form where I'd accidentally hit Shift Delete, and it would delete the whole text box, and I have to go through and add it and reformat it, and it just became a pain in the butt. You don't have to worry about that here. You can't delete any of these text boxes. So scrolling down, lead-based paint was not built prior to 1978. I am listing brokers representing as client. So selling broker, let's do, we'll just select Harry Norman, and representing as client. No material relationships, and then we'll give this until 12 p.m. on 8/22/2020. Scroll down. Just keep scrolling. All right, now we get to our exhibits. So I'm going to select the seller's property disclosure exhibit, so I'll make this exhibit A. We'll do community association disclosure. We'll make that exhibit B. And then because I added the legal description, I would make that C. And then if you added your conventional loan or FHA loan or VA loan exhibit, you could add that here as well. And now we come down to our special stipulations. So here you can start typing in any of the special stipulations you want. I do want to point out that I know a lot of agents have steps that they like to use on every single purchase and sale agreement. Some agents have a lot of them. For whatever reason, when DocuSign was putting the fields on these forms, this is the only amount of space that they allocated for special stipulations, which isn't a lot. So there are two workarounds for what you can do if you need to add more special steps. The first is you can fill in whatever you can here, and then you could select additional special stipulations are attached. And then you can add that GAR form to your room and then attach the remainder of the steps or paste them there. Or what you can do is you can leave this blank for now, and I will show you in the envelope how we can add a text box that we can actually edit the size of the font so you can fit more steps there. Now, if you're sending 20 steps with a 7-point font, I don't think that would be, it wouldn't make you a very popular cooperating agent, but you have the capability of doing it. So I'm just going to add in a couple steps here. Steps, more steps. So I want to add these because then I'm going to show you when we get to the envelope the difference between these steps and what I add as a text box. All right, so keep scrolling down. Now it adds our client's name and email address to the document here. Now this is a purchase and sale agreement, which means it's going to go to a co-op agent. Let me say it. My instinct here is to delete my client's email address. I don't like to share my client's contact information with a co-op agent. 9 times out of 10, that agent is probably going to be very respectful of that relationship you have with your client. But there's always a chance that the agent is kind of shady and wants to reach out to the client directly and try to maybe cut you out of the deal. So I just like to protect my clients and myself from that. Do not delete the client's contact information here. Anytime you change or delete a piece of information in one of the pre-populated fields on a GAR form, it deletes it out of the details tab or changes it in the details tab, which means that it then, if you deleted it here, that would remove it from the room altogether. So when we go to the envelope in just a minute to send these out for signature, there won't be a signature associated with seller 1. So do not delete the client's contact information here. I will show you in the envelope how we can protect and hide that contact info. So I just want to point that out. Do not delete it here. So scrolling down, we'll want to fill in the rest of our information. So just quickly do this. Atlanta, fax number. I always recommend you fill in as much of this information as possible, even the fax numbers. Just, it's one less opportunity for Lynn or Lita to give you feedback on your contract. Now, if you know if you're submitting an offer to co-op agent, I would recommend that you'd fill in his or her information. It makes the offer just a little nicer to review and one less thing for that agent to have to fill in. So I'll fill in Harry Norman here, and I could put in Susie McAgent, license number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, you can just fill in as much of the information here. All right. So we're good to go. We filled out the purchase and sale agreement, so now I'm going to click Save and Close. Let's give this a second. All right, so now that we have finished updating our documents, we now need to send them out for signature. The way that you do that in DocuSign is through an envelope. The way that Michael New explained it to me, and I really, really love this analogy, so I like to share it as well, is think of an envelope in DocuSign like a manila envelope on your desk. If you had put together all the stacks of all the different GAR forms and you prepare them by hand, and then you put them in that manila envelope and you put that on the edge of your desk, you could then hand that manila envelope to your clients and say, please sign the documents in this envelope. That's the same thing here. It really is just a vehicle to send out for signature. There are 2 ways in DocuSign that you can create an envelope. The first way is within the room or within the Documents tab. You can roll your mouse over the documents that you want to include in the envelope. You can select it, and anytime you select a document, this toolbar will appear. And if you scroll your mouse over all the different icons and then you go to the DocuSign icon, you can click DocuSign, and that will create an envelope with the selected documents in it. So that's way number one. The reason I point out this way is because as you start to get more documents in the room, it can become more cumbersome to select the documents in option number 2. So you may want to be like, oh, I just need to send over this amendment or this, amendment number 6. Here, I'll just click DocuSign. It's easier. So that's option number 1. The next way, the other way to select or create an envelope is to click on the Envelopes tab. And then in the top right-hand corner, click New. And then now we are in an envelope. So we'll just fill in the details. Now, if we had selected option 1 for how to make this envelope, the documents would be loaded here, but we'll add these documents in just a second. So as I mentioned a couple times so far, let's just start at the top and we'll work our way down, filling in the information. So envelope name, it'll default to please DocuSign, but update this to something that you'll be able to keep track of. You'll probably send 10, 15, maybe 20 envelopes in a transaction, especially now if you're working with buyers. It is so competitive out there, so many multiple offer situations that I've sent like 6 offers for one client, and every time I do that, it's a new envelope. So make sure that you name it something that you'll remember so you can always go back and double check it if you need to. So I'm going to name this 1234 Main Street, and I'm going to name this exclusive listing agreement and purchase and sale. Now, the name of the envelope is for my eyes only. It won't, the clients won't be able to see it. So you can use abbreviations here. But just be mindful and respectful. You never want a chance naming something, funny or in poor taste. Next, we have add documents to the envelope. So we want to add all those documents that we just updated in the Documents tab. So I'm going to click on the blue button that says Room Docs. And this is going to show me all the documents that I have available to me in the room, in my Documents tab. So for today, I'm going to select all of them. Now, this is what I was saying. Once you start to have a lot of documents in your room, this list of documents here will get pretty long and extensive. And it will include all of the PDFs and GAR forms and confirmations, certificates. So there will be a lot of documents here, and that can be kind of a little cumbersome to weed through to find the exact document. But for now, since we only have 4 in there, it's easy. So I'm going to click Add Selected, and it's going to load those documents into the envelope. All right. Now for KWFA agents, we need to add our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention documents. Those are templates. Because there are no fields on either one of those forms to fill in or change, the MCA office thought it best just to put them here as a template because they really just need to be signed. So click on Use a Template, and then click on Shared with Me. And this is going to be all of the documents that the MCA office has, all the templates that the MCA office has shared with you. If you do not see any documents in your Shared with Me folder here, one of 2 things have happened. One, you didn't start the transaction from within Command. So Command and DocuSign didn't link to confirm that you are a member of KWFA, or on the back end, you are not associated with Keller Williams First Atlanta, and you can email the MCA office and they'll be able to correct that setting for you. So as you scroll through the list here, you can see we have a buyer version of the affiliated marketing and wire fraud. And if I keep scrolling, I have a seller version of the wire fraud and affiliated marketing. Make sure you select the correct version of these disclosures based on which side of the transaction you are working. Because the signature fields are mapped to those client roles that we selected on the Details tab. So this is a listing, so I have Seller 1 and Seller 2. So I need to make sure that I select the seller version to make sure that those fields map properly. All right. Now that I've added those or selected those, I'll click Add Selected, and those will be added to my envelope. So before we go on, you see we have, what is this, 6 forms here. But they're in alphabetical order, and I don't like this. I want my client to sign the documents in specific order. So I would want him or her to sign the listing agreement, then the seller's property disclosure, then the community association disclosure, and then have the purchase and sale agreement be the last document signed. In order to reorder them, you have to do it at this stage of the envelope creation. You cannot change the order of them anywhere after this. So make sure that you put them in the order that you want here. So I'm going to start with the exclusive seller listing agreement. So I'm going to just roll my mouse over the document, select it, and drag it to the position I want. So we have seller listing agreement, and then I want the seller's property disclosure. So I'll drag that into the second position. Then I want the affiliated marketing disclosure, and then wire fraud prevention. And that moves my purchase and sale agreement into the last position. So this will be the order that these documents are signed by your client. So just make sure that you take the time to put them in the order that you want. Now, if you want to add any more templates, if you have created a template, you can use that here. And you have the option, if you click more, you can upload something from your computer. So if you receive a counteroffer form or something from a co-op agent, you could just add that directly here into the envelope. All right. The next section is
Nick.
Yes.
Excuse me, Nick. So this is this folder set up for the listing agreement currently?
Yes.
Okay, so normally we would include the lead-based paint document for the seller.
So I didn't include the lead-based paint exhibit because I made this house built in 2001 because the lead-based paint exhibit is going to be the same functionality as the seller's property disclosure and affiliated and community association.
Okay, so what about there's a reason. So for example, what radon? So maybe radon. So if we I like for everyone to initial the radon document, the lead paint document, et cetera. I like for people to have all this stuff. Yeah. So, but I just, when we were adding documents to the envelope, added it, and then the initial process, we can pick and choose where to initial.
Yeah, so we'll go through that. That'll be in 2 steps. We'll add the initials everywhere.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's continue. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next step is to add recipients to the envelope. I'm going to take a hard pause here because 9 out of 10 questions that I get or error messages that people receive or issues that people have with DocuSign is right here at the add recipients to the envelope. You must select pre-tagged roles at this point of the envelope creation. By selecting pre-tagged roles, that will have the DocuSign system connect all of the contact information for the seller 1 and seller 2 and listing agent information that we put on the details tab with all the correct initial and signature fields on each one of the GAR forms that we just set up. If you do not select pre-tagged roles, none of those signature fields and initial fields will be mapped for signature. You will have to do it manually. Also, for the disclosures, so seller's property disclosure, community association, lead-based paint disclosure, as I mentioned before, all of those fields to be filled in are mapped to seller 1. If you do not select the pre-tagged roles, seller 1 will not be mapped to be able to fill in that information, so they will end up signing a blank document. So be sure to always select pre-tagged roles. So I'll click on pre-tagged roles, and we will fill in the fields for our client. So we have seller 1, so I'm going to click seller 1 here, and I'll select Tony Stark. Seller 2, I'll select Pepper Potts, and then listing agent, I will select myself. Now you'll notice you'll probably be in here twice. One, it's fine, you can select either version of yourself, but one will be because you are the agent owner of the room, And the second will be because you've added yourself either as a listing agent or the buyer's agent on the details tab. So I'll select myself as a listing agent. So I'm good to go there. Now you'll see here it says seller 1 and seller 2 in a different way. Don't worry about that. I'll show you how to work around that. That's just because the templates are mapped a little bit differently. So I'll click add selected. And now it is going to add those contacts to the envelope. So just give it a second to load. Perfect. So now it's added Tony, Pepper, and myself. So let's break down the information that we have in front of us here in these recipient boxes. So to the left, we have boxes and each one of them says 1 in them. The number here is the order in which someone will sign these documents. You can set with it's all 1, everyone can sign at the same time. Or if you want to put this in a specific order, so one person signs before another. I know some agents like to sign the documents before they go to the client, whereas other agents like to sign them after they go to the client. You can put that in whatever order you want. So I want to select, I want Tony to be signer number 1, so I'll leave him as number 1. And then I'm going to have Pepper be number 2. So just click 2 and click enter, and then it'll read number. And then I'm going to make myself number 3. Now, the reason I wanted to do in this order is because Tony is going to be seller 1. So he is going to fill in all the information on those disclosure forms. Then once he's finished filling those in and signs it, those documents will then go to Pepper, where she will have the opportunity to review all the information and sign. So it's just a great way that you can get a second set of eyes on those documents to make sure all the information is correct. And then once Pepper signs, it'll come to me. Now within each one of these contact boxes, we have a drop down where it says need to sign. They have different roles and responsibilities. So you can select needs to sign, which 9 times out of 10 will be the responsibility of that client. Needs to view, so if they just need to review the document, that's it. If you want to have them receive a copy of the document after it's all signed, you can add receives a copy. This may be useful if you are if you're sending a document or a purchase and sale agreement out to become binding, you could potentially add your closing attorney or your lender on here and they can receive a copy automatically. So they'll receive a copy of that binding agreement. You may want to give them a heads up that it's coming just so they don't receive a contract and they don't know what to do with it, or specify recipient. So those are your different options there. And then to the right of that, we have a more drop down. We have 2 options. We have an add and access authentication and add private message. You may work with a client that is not comfortable or very comfortable with e-signatures. There's maybe concerns that someone could hack into their email and start signing documents for them and they end up under contract on a house they had no clue about. If that's the case, you can add an access authentication code that client will have to fill in before DocuSign will allow them to start signing. So to do that, just click add access authentication and then you can type in a quick code there. And I would tell Tony, hey Tony, for you to be able to sign, you need to be sure to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when you go to start signing. It's that simple. But for today, I don't want to include that, so I'll just click discard. And then the other option is add a private message. So for today, Tony is going to be responsible for filling in all of the fields on the disclosure. So I'm going to write Tony a quick message that says, hi Tony, please be sure to fill in all of the fields on the disclosures before clicking finish. Thank you, Nick. So this will be a message that goes only to Tony. And I'll show you how that looks in an email in just a minute. So we've set up all of our recipients. We've put them in the right order of signing. We've given them all the right responsibilities. And I've even added a quick note for Tony so he does not just breeze through and accidentally sign a blank disclosure form. So I'm going to scroll down and now I'm going to write a message to the recipients. The email subject is going to default to please DocuSign. I recommend you leave that in there and then add the property address, and you can put listing agreement, and I'll just do offer form. So they know, okay, this is the DocuSign email in regards to our property, it's the listing agreement, and it's the offer form. So they know exactly what it is. I imagine at this point you've already had a conversation with them. They expect these documents from you. But this will just be another way that they can double check, okay, perfect. These are actually from Nick and not someone that hacked his system. And then you can write a quick email here. Hi, Tony and Pepper. Please review and e-sign the forms for your listing. Thank you, Nick. Or, whatever email you want. So once you've set up the envelope, we have given the envelope a name that we'll be able to remember and keep track of. We've added all the documents that we want to send out for signature, and we've put them in the correct order. Then we added our recipients. We put them in the correct signing order that we want, and we've also added a note here for Tony. And then we've also added an email for the recipients. Once you've done all of this, we click on Next up here in the top right-hand corner. And this is what's going to take us to the envelope editor where we can add and change any of the signature or initial fields. So I'm going to click Next. And we'll give this a second to load. All right. There's a lot of information on this page, so I'm going to walk through the layout of it before we actually start doing any work. So in the top left-hand corner, you can see there's an arrow. It says go back. If for whatever reason, if you ever need to go back into a document to make a change to it, or go back into the envelope to make a change, you could click the back button here. The system does automatically save changes, so if you add signature fields or text boxes, it will save them, I think, like every 30 seconds. Below that is a drop-down menu, and it'll show your client's name. And you'll see right now it says it's selected with Tony, and it has a yellow dot, and then Pepper's blue, and myself is purple. And all the fields down here are highlighted yellow. That's to let me know that if I add any of these fields to the document, they'll be assigned to Tony. If I select Pepper, all of the colors change to blue. And so it's an easy way for you to visually distinguish who is responsible for which fields on the document. And you can select between all the people that you've added as a recipient. In the middle of the screen here, we have a preview of the document. You can just scroll down and you will see all of the information that we've added in the documents, in the documents tab. All of the fields that we filled in the documents tab are no longer editable here. We cannot change them. And then on the right-hand side, we have a menu bar, and this is going to show thumbnails of each one of the documents. So we have our listing agreement, this property disclosure, community association disclosure, affiliated marketing, wire fraud, and purchase and sale. These are in the order that we put them in just a moment ago when we were creating the envelope. You're unable to reorder the documents here. So that's why I was saying if you want to put them in a specific order, you have to do that at that step when you're creating the envelope, because now they are locked into this order. So you can click on the document and it will maximize the thumbnails. So you can just like click through to the different pages, because not every page has a signature on it. But then if you scroll down, you'll see this tab or thumbnail has three little notes or notifications on it. That is to let me know as I'm breezing through these thumbnails that there are signature fields or required fields for each person on this tab. So you can see we have a yellow for one, signer one, blue for seller two, and then purple for myself. So it's that easy. Now, if I come down to the seller's property disclosure, you'll see we have yellow tabs. And that's because there's a bunch of fields mapped to seller one, as I mentioned earlier. So what I want to do is I want to quickly walk through each one of these documents, because You will need just to double check all the signature fields are there correctly. Maybe add one, add an initial, maybe add a quick text box for something you forgot. So let's just quickly walk through it before we send out for signature. So you'll just scroll through and double check and make sure everything is good to go. At the bottom of the first page of each GAR form is this text here. This form is copyrighted and may only be used in real estate transactions in which blank is involved as a real estate licensee. Our name should be there. DocuSign didn't map to put our name there, but because our name and brokerage is in the bottom left-hand corner of the page, that suffices, so you're good to go there. So we're going to continue to scroll down, scrolling, keep scrolling. All right, all those checked. So you'd want to send those brochures. All right, we have our client signature and date signed. So this date will automatically populate when they go to sign. Scrolling down, we have my signature and date signed. Now, I've set myself up to sign last. So once I sign, all the documents will be sent out to everyone. So what I can do is I can add text fields here. So I can make this listing agreement binding before it is sent out to everybody. So what I want to do is I want to select myself. So I go to purple, and then I want to add a text field. So add text field here, just drag it and drop it there. And then you'll want to format the size. Add that there. Now, one thing that you can do, which is really cool, is you can right mouse click on it and hit copy. And then let me just paste. So I don't have to go and add another one, and I can just paste that same text box and fit that there. And then here for the date, I can just come up to date signed, click on date signed, and then put that date signed field here. So when I sign this document, this date signed will automatically populate. Now, when you click on any one of the fields, this menu on the right-hand side will appear. You'll see it shows who the recipient is, who's responsible for it. It'll automatically default to a required field. And what that means as a required field is that when your clients or yourself are going through the signature process, the system will stop at every required field. More often than not, the required field is going to be signature. But in this case, I've set this blank text field to be a required field. So I'll be able to fill this in when I sign, so I can put the exact time that I'm signing, so I can make this binding. And the same thing for this text box here. You do have the ability to make it read only, which means that no one will be able to edit it. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So I've added those text fields there. So we're going to keep scrolling. So now we're getting to the seller's property disclosure. Now, remember earlier when I told you that we didn't have access to fill in any of this information, but Seller One does? Well, if you see, all of these yellow boxes and radio buttons are all mapped to Seller One. So if I click on it, the recipient of this is Tony Stark. One thing you'll notice here is that these are not required fields. So the way that this document would work is that Tony would go sign the listing agreement and then would go to the seller's property disclosure, and then it would jump to the required field, which would be the signature line. And it would bypass all of these fields that he needs to fill in information for. What you could do is say, hey, Tony, when you're signing, make sure that before you click finish, scroll back up and fill in the fields for the disclosures. Or a little trick that I kind of recently discovered is that when you're going through the seller's property disclosure, see this first box here, it says, what year is the main dwelling constructed? If you make this a required field, as Tony is going through the process of signing, the system is going to stop him here to fill in the year. And it'll be much easier for your client to fill in this information and then just go from there to start clicking the rest of the fields. So I recommend make the first field on the disclosure a required field. So we'll scroll through, we'll see all these fields are mapped to Seller One. And that's what I was telling you when we were creating the envelope. If you do not select pre-tagged roles, these fields won't be mapped to anybody. And they'll just sign a blank document. And that doesn't do anybody any good. So scrolling down, you can see all of these things, all these items here, they all have check marks. Some text boxes. Scrolling down, we have our client name, our signature, a name. Perfect, good to go. Scrolling down, we have our community association disclosure. Now, before I pointed out, oh, sorry, I have a question. Check that. When I'm selecting the participant to sign it, it does not show the seller I want to sign. So that's when you're creating the envelope and you're adding recipients, you have to select those pre-tagged roles. And then seller 1 is going to be the person that is mapped to fill in all the information on the disclosures. So if you go back out of the envelope editor, and then you can change the recipients to pre-tagged roles and then select the correct person that you want mapped as seller 1. And then all those fields should be assigned to the correct participant. So for the community association disclosure, I would recommend you do that same trick of making the first field required, but you don't know what type of association they have. So I wouldn't make any of these fields required. But if you come down here to the name of the association, it's a text box. If you click on that, you can make this field required, and this will stop the system. So it'd be easy enough for him or her to go up here and fill in that information. All right, so just scrolling through, we have all these different fields here. All these are yellow, mapped to seller 1. Here we have our client's initials. Here we have our affiliated marketing. Now, for whatever reason, the signature fields did not add correctly here to this document, so we'll want to add them. So I'll select Tony, I'll click signature, and I'll put that right there. And then I want to add date signed, and I'm going to put that over there. So the date signed ends up being really long, so I kind of put it over in the middle. And then we'll select Pepper, signature, and then date signed. And again, I'll just kind of put that in the middle of the box, just so that way it doesn't go off the page. Scrolling down, we have our wire fraud. And for whatever reason, these signature fields get moved, so just put those in the correct place. And then we have our purchase and sale agreement. So scrolling down, you'll see we have all these fields. It didn't say the comma in the purchase price. Oh, you can see here for the earnest money, earnest shall be paid by check, cash, or wire fraud, or wire transfer. I forgot to put a check mark there. So I can add a check mark here. So I'll select myself, and then I will add a checkbox. I'll put that checkbox right there. Now I want to go ahead and I want to fill this in so it's checked when it goes to my clients for signature. So I'll come over here to checkbox values and check that box there. And then I'm going to come up to where it says read only and check read only. So now that checkbox will appear when everybody signs the document. So just another way that you can double check to make sure everything is filled in correctly because I forgot that box. Scrolling down, everything looks good to go. We have our client initials. No fields here. Just keep scrolling. All right. So now we're getting to our special stipulations. Now we talked about earlier how in the document, in the edit, in the purchase and sale GAR form, that field for special steps isn't very big and you can't fit a lot of steps in there. So what you may want to do is come over here when you're in the envelope and you can add a text box. Just add that text box here and then you can size it to however big you want. And then you can just start typing in your steps, or you can paste them in. Oops. Paste as many as you want. So let me just copy these, paste. So now you can see I have a lot here. Well, I want to make sure that all these show, so I can select all of them. And if I come over here to formatting, I can make this font 7-point font. So now I can fit more stipulations in this text box. Now, 7-point font, like I said earlier, is probably not going to make you very popular, but as long as you're protecting your client, I think it's fine. Now, you still have the option that you could add that additional stipulations page, which may be a better option for you, but just wanted to point out that this is another workaround for you to add more stipulations. Oh, and the last thing you want to do is I'd recommend that you uncheck required field and check read only. So that way this field and these stipulations are not editable or changeable once this document has gone out for signature. So scrolling down, we'll want to check our signatures are all here correctly for our clients. And then we have our client's email. And this is what I pointed out to you earlier, that I don't like to send out my client's email to co-op agents. Well, we can't delete it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to black it out. On the far left-hand side, there's an icon that looks like a pencil titled Markup Tools. So I'll select that and then select Line. And I'm just going to drag a line across my client's email. And then once I do that, I have the same options to edit. So I can click on color, I can make it black, and I can come to thickness and I can make this 10-point thickness. Now you can see it covers up my entire client's contact info. I'm going to right mouse click on it and click copy and then paste. I can drag that second line to cover up Pepper's email. And I'm just going to drag that so it's a little bit longer. And now my client's contact information is covered up and protected. So a pretty simple workaround for that. So scrolling down, we have my email or my signature. Everything's good to go here. All right. So now everything's ready to be sent. You would click send up here in the top right-hand corner or bottom right-hand corner. But before we do that, let's double check our recipient preview. So if you click on recipient preview, this is going to show you what your clients will see when they go to sign. So you can view each of the document or the documents as each one of the recipients, because each one will have different mapping rights. You can see what it looked like on a desktop, on a tablet, on a mobile phone. So if it's a multiple offer situation and you're writing contracts at Starbucks and you're like, hey, you need to sign this as soon as possible, you can sign on your mobile phone. They can. This is probably what it's going to look like. It's going to be really difficult to read, but let them know, hey, you can still sign on your mobile phone and you'll get a copy in your email afterwards so you can read through everything. Time is of the essence. And so you can kind of go through start and you could kind of see what it's like for them to sign. So when you're done with the recipient preview, just click the X in the top right-hand corner. And now I'm going to click send. So let's give this a second to send. Perfect. So now I'm in the envelopes folder. It lets me know that there's an envelope waiting for others. And now I am going to go through and I'm going to show you what it's like for Tony, Pepper, and myself as the agent to sign. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to open up Gmail real quickly. Boop, boop, boop. Let me open up my KWFA Tech email. So I've set this email up for to be associated with Tony Stark. So you'll see Tony has received this email. Please DocuSign 1234 Main Street listing agreement and offer form. I'm going to open that. I'm going to scroll down. You'll see here's that private message just for Tony. So please be sure to fill in all the fields and disclosures before clicking finish. And then below that is the message to both Tony and Pepper. So I'm going to click Review Docs. And now I'll be able to start signing as Tony. So they will need to click Agree to use electronic records, Continue, and then click Start. It's going to scroll all the way to that first required field at the bottom of the listing agreement. Click Sign. Then they'll need to confirm their signature style, so they can select one, they can draw one or upload one, just adopt and sign. Now, it jumped to the next required field, which is the seller's property disclosure, which he needs to fill in. So I'll type in, we did 2001. And now since the form has stopped here, it's really easy for Tony to come through here and to start filling in all these fields. And he can scroll down type in some information here. Just go through here and just check all these different boxes. Now these aren't required, so he could potentially actually just sign this without filling this in. But because we made that first field required, it just makes it a lot easier for him to sign. So I'm not going to click through all of these, but I just want to give you an idea of what it's like for your clients, what they're going to see. So I'll just scroll down to the bottom. So you can just check all these. Perfect. And now Tony can sign. And now again, it jumped to the first required field on the community association disclosure. So he has to type in name of association. And he can easily scroll up and be like, all right, this is a mandatory homeowners association. That's gonna be $1,000 a year and is paid in 2 installments. Name of association. And then contact person, contact info, HOA management. I'm just typing in fields here. Telephone number, 1234. And then you can more easily scroll down, fill in the rest of this information. Click on everything. We have swim, tennis, playground, common area, maintenance. Perfect. And then he can initial, sign, sign. This is the purchase and sale agreement. Now, if I scroll up here, you'll see where I added those special steps. So it's right there and no one can edit them. Then click sign. And then also my client's email addresses are blacked out. So click sign. And now Tony's finished. So click finish. Now you want to let your clients know that they need to click the finish button. And then they need to hear the ask if they want to create an account. They can click no thanks. They need to make sure they receive this "you're all done" message, and that will let the system know that the documents need to go on to the next person. If they don't receive the "you're all done" message, then they're not done signing, and the next person will not be able to sign. So I'm going to close out of this tab. I'm going to open up my personal Gmail, which is what I've set up for Pepper's account. If I scroll here, you'll see we have the email from myself. Please, DocuSign 1234 Main Street. And then here's a message to Tony and Pepper. But I don't have that private message here because that only went to Tony. So now Pepper is going to review documents for signature. Agree, continue, start. It's going to jump all the way to that first required field, which is at the bottom of the listing agreement, sign, and then we'll confirm the signature. And then it jumped all the way to the bottom of the seller's property disclosure. Now for example today, I'm just going to scroll up because I'm going to show you, because Tony signed first, all of these fields are filled in. So Pepper has the opportunity to go through here and she can double check and make sure that all this information is correct. So it's just a great way to have a second set of eyes on a document and everything's filled in. Let me scroll down. You see here's a bunch of check boxes that I put on there. And then Pepper can sign. And same thing for the community association disclosure. Scroll up, you can see all the information that Tony filled in is here for her to sign. So scrolling down, initial, sign, sign, initial, sign, and now Pepper's finished, so Pepper can click finish. Again, it will ask her to create an account, which we don't need to do. No, thank you. You're all done. All right, so I'm gonna go back there. Let me just. All right, so now that everyone else has signed, I have the opportunity to sign. So it says, please DocuSign, and it's my turn. So I saw I have a question, so let me check that. So Lawrence, let's connect after after this training about commercial and transferring stuff over from .loop, because that is a pretty extensive process. So let's chat after this. All right, so now it's my turn, so I'm going to click Review Documents. I know we're getting to the end of the time, so thank you for being patient. I'll click Continue, Start. It's going to have me sign. You can give it a second for the page to load so you know exactly what you're signing. Sign. And now remember, I set these fields for me to fill in. So I'm going to make this at 12 p.m. and it filled in the date. So this listing agreement is going to become binding now. So fill in, sign, and now I'm finished. I don't need to log in. No, thank you. You're all done. So let me come back over here to, this is Tony's email. Now, if you give the system a second, just about a second, now they will receive an email that says completed, please DocuSign, and all the forms. And all of the signed forms are attached here as PDFs. So you have given them notice of these signed documents. Here's the exclusive seller listing agreement. You can open up that to check it. And I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom because I want to show you here, it is binding. So your listing agreement is good to go. So that way it just saves you one less step that you have to do once you sign all these documents. So once I come back into DocuSign, I can reload the envelopes tab and it will show it's completed. I go into the documents tab. And as I mentioned to you earlier, anytime a new document is added to a room, it's going to default into the room docs folder. So if I scroll down, you'll see I have all these documents with green check marks on them that say signed. These are all the forms that were just signed. And then we have a certification. And this just shows us that all this, the time that everything was signed. If there's any question about someone signing or not signing, all that information is right here. So I want to move all of my listing agreement forms into my listing agreement folder. So I'm just going to select all of them. And I'm going to move them into folder and current room, listing agreement, move. Just because I want to try to keep everything as simple as possible. Now, there's a couple things I want to show you before we start uploading things for compliance. So I appreciate you being patient and sticking with me a couple minutes over this morning. Let's say you're getting ready to send a document to a co-op agent and you want to send an offer. You can combine multiple PDFs here into a single PDF document. And the way that you would do that is you would select all the documents that you want to combine. So let's say for now, I'm just going to select all my listing agreement forms into a single PDF that I want to send to my clients. So I'm selecting all the signed documents because those are PDFs. And when you select a document, the toolbar appears at the top and scroll your mouse over to where you get to the combine icon, click combine. And now I can give this document a name. So I can do 1234 Main Street listing agreement signed 08/21/20. And then you can just click on the name of the document and drag it into the position that you want. Because, you know, we want to make sure that things are in the right order. So we have listing agreement, SPD, CAD, affiliated marketing, wire fraud. And then click save. The documents tab will reload. And if I scroll down to the room docs, I now have my new document, 1234 Main Street listing agreement. I'm just going to drag that into my listing agreement folder to keep everything organized. And if you open it, you now see that you have all of these documents combined into one. And you can download it, you can select it, and then click on download. Now let's say you need to add a document, so you get the listing agreement, you get an offer from a co-op agent. You can click add here and then click on computer. And then you could add a document. So let me just open up one really quickly. Let's just do clients, sellers, offer 3. Perfect. So I'm just going to add this document. So this is an offer that I received for a listing. That's all combined into one. So you see here we have our new document added. And it is everything added in one. But before I'm able to upload into compliance, I need to separate this. So to separate it and to split it into multiple documents, open up the single PDF. And then up here in the top right-hand corner, there's an icon that looks like a page with the corner dog ear called Document Actions. Click on that and then select Split. What it's going to do is it's going to show a preview of each one of the pages of the document here. And then we have the opportunity to name and identify which pages we want to be for each document. So I'll name this Purchase and Sale. And I'll do pages, we'll do 1 through, and if you roll over, you can see, kind of get an idea of what is on each page. So I'll do pages 1 through 8. It highlights it, so it lets me know that these are the pages that I want. And now if I want to add another one, so I can click conventional loan exhibit. So I'll just name this CLE, and this will be page 9 through 11. And it highlights it there. Perfect. And now I want to add another document. This is our affiliated marketing. So affiliated marketing disclosure. And we'll make this page 12. And I don't need to save page 13 for whatever reason. So just click Save. It'll reload. And now in the Room Docs folder, we will have split up those documents into multiple documents. We have our affiliated marketing, conventional loan exhibit, purchase and sale. And that's how you're able to split documents directly in DocuSign. So now we have all of our documents. Everything's good to go in DocuSign. Now we need to start uploading these for compliance review. So I'm going to go back into Command. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Add a File. So I have my listed agreement, and there's multiple ways that you can upload these documents. So I'll click on Add a File, and so I'll select my source of documents as DocuSign, and now it's going to load in all of the forms from DocuSign. So if you've created folders, you can select the folder. So I want to do listing agreement, just going to make it a little bit easier. And then I can scroll down to exclusive seller listing agreement signed. You want to make sure that you add the signed version. So I click that and then assign. So that's way number one that you can upload documents. But we have multiple documents that we want to attach here. I don't want to go one by one. You can click on Attach Multiple Files. And they'll give us the option we can add multiple all at once. So I'll select Sources DocuSign. And then I'll come down to Community Association Disclosure. Let me come down to my listed agreement folder, and we'll go to Community Association Disclosure Signed. Make sure you always select the signed one. Seller's Property Disclosure, we'll do the same thing. Seller's Property Disclosure Exhibit Signed. Rawls Group Affiliated Marketing. Affiliated Marketing Signed. And then Rawls Group Wire Fraud. Wire fraud, oh, there it is, signed. And then click Attach. So now to upload all of those documents at a single time at once. So now I have all of my listing agreement forms uploaded. Now I would click Submit to MC, and this would let Lynn or Alita know that they need to come review my listing agreement forms and let me know if there are any changes that are needed. But let's say I want to add a document that isn't listed here. We can click on Add Item. We can give this a name, so I'll just name this Original Offer, or Original Offer 8/21/20. Document type, agreement. The document type doesn't really matter; it doesn't have to be exactly correct. And then we'll select Source of Document, DocuSign, and I will scroll down. Let's do root folder, and this would be the 2230 Highland Gate offer. So I just want to upload the entire thing, and I'll click Save, just so I can have that copy of that original offer saved in command, because ultimately at the end of the day, this will become a storage warehouse after this transaction is closed. So after you've done that, you click submit to MC. You will then be notified. You'll get a notification here on your bell that says a compliance event has been returned. And you should also get an alert from your Kelly app on your phone if you were logged in. So that is the DocuSign training for this morning. We just went through a ton of information and I went over, so I appreciate your patience. Any questions that you have about DocuSign, anything you want me to show you again, anything you want me to show you I didn't before, let me know. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. All right. Well, if there are no questions, everyone have a great rest of your Friday. As you start to play around in DocuSign, start to put your contracts in there. Let me know what questions you have. I'm always here to help. Usually, just give me a quick call. I'll put my contact information in the chat box here so you can reach out to me. Give me a call. It's probably going to be the simplest way, and we can quickly talk through whatever issue you're having.
Thank you, Nick.
You are very welcome. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.